trying to message you, but Messenger and Facebook sometimes it's difficult because if you don't have the person added like a friend, the messages go to like spam or something. So yeah, that's why I come.
I am not a technical genius, so
I know, yeah, don't worry. This technology sometimes is a little bit difficult,
it
but
changes
yeah.
so quickly. I am a hospital administrator in cardiology and in cancer centers, and I knew all the computers then, but I have retired over 10 years ago, and everything has changed since then.
Yes, exactly. But well, you have Facebook, WhatsApp, so you are so like you have the technology. Don't worry about it.
Believe me, I am not very good at it. So, but that's okay. I mean, I am not gonna try, whatever it is, it's fine.
Yes, you know what? The other survivor I interviewed, Johnny, he has Instagram, and he was telling us like, go and follow me on Instagram. He was saying, and he's 94 years, and we were all like, I don't know, it was so cute. But yes, I think, yeah, I sent you the questions, but I was thinking that um maybe I forgot to add the question of.
Well, just ask whatever you want to ask. I am very flexible. If I can, I answer it. If not, I'll tell you. Just ask anything you want. It doesn't have to be the same questions. I'm
Okay.
used to being just asked questions. So go ahead and ask anything you want.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was thinking that I didn't put a question of your life after the Holocaust, like in the United States and all that that you have been through, right? Because you just you didn't just survive the Holocaust, you survived and other things in your life that I
I
was so
survived
amazed.
Stalin because he occupied Hungary for 10 years before I escaped from Hungary after the Hungarian Revolution. So I survived that too. And I survived cancer, and I survived a very, very serious car accident. The car I was in got pushed down the side of the mountain coming home from Yosemite, and every bone in my body was cracked.
Wow, yes, I read that in the document you sent me,
Yeah.
and wow, it's amazing, right? Like I think it's a miracle you
Well,
living like.
I figured there must be a reason that I'm still alive, and I'm hoping that I am fulfilling it.
Yeah, exactly. God has a purpose, right, for you to be here, because it's amazing all what
Well,
you have been through.
he or she should tell me what is the purpose, so I make sure that I do it.
Oh, come on, doing.
There is a miscommunication in here. I don't get any notices from him.
Oh, you'll know. I know you will figure out. But doing this is your purpose, like teaching young generations about all that happened. I think that's your purpose, like right now, right? So I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. People, I don't know why they're connecting. Well, I'm not accepting them, but I told them like 10 minutes before the hour, but okay, let's keep them
Well, I
here.
mean, you're welcome to get them in there. I mean, we're not going to talk about anything which is secret. So
No, yeah,
whatever,
of course. They're
whatever,
going.
whatever works for you, sweetie. Whatever works for you.
No, yeah, of course they're going to be here. So, but I am waiting a little bit because I told them like in 10 minutes or something. But yeah, we will have here many of them,
They are
many
students
young people.
also. They are students.
I don't know if everybody will be a student, or even I invited lots of young people, but I put like the invitation open. I think maybe some adults will join, but yeah, most of them they will be from Mexico. So we are not English, and English is not our native language, right? But yeah, we
Neither is
think.
mine. Neither is mine. So
Yes, but thank God we understand, and we can talk talk with English, yeah, more or less. Sometimes I get confused with the verbs or before,
Don't worry
after.
about it. Listen,
But
I know what is it like. I am a refugee here too, so I know what you mean.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Before starting, I think my mom wants to know you. She's always here listening when it's happening, and
That's fine.
she's going to help me with all this stuff in the meeting. But yeah, she's here.
Hello.
Hello, how
Nice
are
to meet
you?
you.
Same
Fine, thank
here.
you. This is an amazing opportunity have the young people understand what's going on in what happened, and now they can value life, because it's easy for them, everything that's
Well,
going on.
I think that in this political situation, it's very important.
Yes, yes.
I mean, especially in this country. Right
Yeah.
now, it is the darkest part of American history, far as I know. And I think it's very important right now that people know what bigotry and hatred can do.
Yeah, especially in this time also, we don't, even us, we are like, oh, we're in the pandemic situation, and we are like, having all these problems, mental problems, emotional
But this
problems,
is
but this
not
is
not
nothing.
compared what you went through, right? Or yeah.
Well,
Yes.
in many ways, it doesn't compare, but in many ways, it makes me feel like I was back then, because I was locked away for 2 years in
Yeah.
cabinets and closets and all kinds of places.
Yes.
And now that you don't really have the freedom to go places, sometimes it feels like it's coming back.
Yeah, it's something that you have, it triggers. It
That's
triggers
right,
you that
exactly. It triggers,
uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also a good time for you to maybe to confront that, because it's still there. So it's good for you to know that it's still there, so you can work it out, and
I mean, I actually spent. I was married to a psychologist when
mm.
my ex-husband is a psychologist, so I got shrunk a lot.
Oh,
And and then after that, I've been in and out of therapy for 20 years whenever I felt I needed it. So I am okay with dealing with it. It is
uh,
just the fact that um, this is what the first time all these years that you are in isolation comparatively,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that brings back those years.
The memories, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these things also help you a lot, and to get it out again and again and again, it helps. But it was really nice to meet you. I know you guys have to start. I'll be behind the scenes, huh?
Sweetie, I'm right here. If you have any questions as well, just ask me.
Okay.
I am very flexible.
Okay. Okay, Eva. Well, thank you for participating and giving part of you.
You're very
We are.
welcome.
Thank you.
La puerta de allá. Yes, okay, so we will wait a little bit more, but yeah, I'm so happy, and as I told you, I will love to meet you someday, like physically, in person. It will be awesome too.
I'm looking forward to it. As I
Yeah.
mentioned, I never really been to Mexico. I was in Tijuana once, and I took one of these 4-day boat rides around the border, but nothing else, So I really have never been to Mexico. So
Oh
that's one of
yeah,
the places I haven't been to. I've been to India and China and Japan and all over the places, but I have not been to Mexico.
yeah, you have to come and know this beautiful.
I know, I heard this Mexico City is amazing.
Yes. Wait me a little bit. Okay. Yes, and I'm so happy because yeah, it's difficult to contact survivors and all this, and I'm so happy that in Facebook I could find you. I don't know, I'm so happy that I could read your story. In which book do you have that story?
There's a book called How We Survived. 52 Holocaust survivors wrote their story in it.
Oh yeah, how is the name?
How we survived.
Like hobby?
I think I have a copy here. I will bring it out and show it to you.
Okay.
But it is called How We Survived.
How we survive.
Yeah.
Okay, how we survive. Yes, and I was going to ask you too, if you know other survivors.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, I belong to a group called the Child Survivors of the Holocaust Los Angeles chapter. Uh, they meet regularly. I am not a very good member. I pay my dues and I only show up very rarely. But yes, I know some survivors.
Oh, that's great. Maybe if you can, I don't know, contact one of them and like ask some of them if they want, if they are willing to be interviewed. Maybe I
Well,
can
I will
invite them.
send a note to the president and let her decide.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you so much. That will be
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Okay, yeah, okay. I am going to, well, we have two people in the, sorry, espera, in the waiting room. I don't know how to say it, but
No,
okay.
you said that right. It is the waiting room.
Okay, I will admit them. There are two of them, but yeah, we're going to wait a little bit more. But yeah, maybe for, because they are coming early, they can't say hello. Okay.
Whatever works, sweetie, whatever works.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have three more people here. Okay, hello to Alicia, he's a friend from Mexico. Juan Miguel, he's a friend from El Salvador. And I think Marcos, he's from Spain. And he, yeah, he's joining us from Spain. But yeah, we are waiting a couple minutes for all the people that is joining us. But okay, I don't know if someone wants to say hello to Eva right now, or we can wait to the other people to join. Okay. Well, Eva and me, we were just talking about my family, the story, and then she's going to tell us an amazing story, right? Of how she survived these terrible things, but thank God she's here with us today. So thank you for being here. But yeah, we're waiting for more people. Okay, in the chat, Alicia says hello, nice to meet you. Okay, yeah, Alice, if you want to talk, you can do it. But yeah, she's saying nice to meet you. And okay, we will wait a little bit. Okay, well, maybe meanwhile we are waiting, I don't know, Eva, do you want to say something like what you were telling me that you are participating in this like Holocaust survivors community of the museum. What do you do there? Like meanwhile we wait the others.
They usually call me up and ask me to either come to the museum, and they have a library, and they have people come to all kinds of either schools or just the general public, and you talk to them, and you tell them your story, and you answer the questions they have, or they send me to schools, or or other organizations and colleges and stuff. I been doing this for about 10 years. Uh, Before that, I didn't want to have much to do with it, and but then I realized how important it is because of the way how world is becoming a horrible place again, and I wanted to make sure that the young people know what hatred and bigotry against anybody can cause, because unfortunately we still have all these issues everywhere all over the world. So I decided to participate, and so that's what I do with the museum. I speak whenever they ask me, and if I can have the time, and I go wherever they send me. I've been all over California for them.
Yeah, that's nice, right? Because you can tell your story, and so young generations would know what happened. And as you said, that yeah, nowadays we live in this world full of hate and all things that are happening, and it's so important, right, for us to think about this, of the horrors that have been through in the history, so we can not repeat it, right?
Exactly. And the problem is that you thought that people had learned their lesson, but they don't seem to have learned it.
Yeah,
It seems like it's repeating itself, not only everywhere. I mean, if you read the world news, you realize how much problem is going over the world right now. So it's this is not a time to just sit and sit back and do nothing.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that's so brave of you, right? Because you are like putting this time to talk to us about all that happened to you, and you always do it, right? Through the museum and the schools, you go and talk about what happened to you. I think it's so brave, because I know that this is such a difficult story, right? Because the trauma, all the things that you've been through, but thank God you can use this for people to be more aware of the importance of love everyone, right? And not hate and all
And
this.
respect. I mean, all you need to do is respect everybody else, regardless how do they pray. That should make no difference. Because if there is a God, there is only one God for everybody. And we should not be, making any kind of hatred against anyone. So to me, it's very important that people know what bigotry and hatred can do.
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, that's why what bring us to the reality we have, right? The yeah, hate and all these bad feelings, also the selfishness, right? So yeah, I think it's a great labor what you are doing. And yeah, thank you all of you that are joining us. We haven't like started yet, but yeah, we were talking a little bit with Eva of what she is doing today for telling her story. And yeah, welcome to everyone. And if you want, you can keep your camera on or off, whatever. But yeah, you're welcome. Everyone that is joining us, I think more people is going to join us in a couple minutes. But thank you all. I will try, but to stream this meeting live in Facebook. The other day I couldn't, and some of you that were at that meeting know that. But I think today I will be able to stream live this reunion. So I will put here in the chat the link of the Facebook page. So when the stream begins, you can go and and share this stream so more people can watch it, even if they are not in this meeting in Zoom. They will be able to watch this interview with Eva about her amazing story. So I will put it here, the link. And I don't know if okay, I will put it here, and we are starting in 2 minutes. So yeah, welcome everyone. Wait me a second, just a second. Okay, wait me a minute, because I have a little problem with. Okay. Okay, we're about to start, I think in a minute. Yeah, okay. Just wait me a second because yeah, my mom that is helping me, we have some problems with the device, but yeah, now we are 14 people here. I think more are going to join us in a couple minutes, but yeah, welcome. I think we are from, most of us, we're from Mexico. We have from El Salvador too, Poland too. My friend Bartek from Poland is here. So yeah, hello. I think, I don't know if there's anyone of other country, you can put it on the chat. And yes, what I'm going to say is that, okay, Eva will tell us her story, and you can ask questions in the chat.
I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah, don't worry. You can ask questions in the chat. So at the end of the interview, she will be able to answer them, right? You can do it, ask them in the chat, and I will read them. Or maybe if you would like, you can ask Eva personally the questions. So yeah, yeah, I will. The people that can turn on your camera, it will be nice, right? Because Eva can see to who she's talking with. But if you can't, don't worry. But it will be nice, you know, because I'm going to stream this meeting live in Facebook, so all our faces will be there. So yeah, if you can turn on your camera, it will be nice. Okay, so let's just, okay, Eva is back.
Eva is back.
Okay, I think we're going to start. Just wait me a minute. Okay. Okay. Okay, we are about to be live on Facebook in the page I send you here. I think someone is going to send the link of the live. If you can share this live on Facebook, it will be awesome, so more people can watch this. So hello, hello everyone that is here. We are with Eva. She's a survivor from the Holocaust, and she's here to tell her story, and she's so happy to be here. So how are you, Eva?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure for us to hear you.
You're very welcome, darling.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we are young people here that we want to hear your story, right, and learn about it. So thank you so much for taking the time, for being here. Okay, in the chat there are saying greetings from Spain. Eva, nice to meet you. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. And we will start this interview. Okay, Eva, can you tell us where you were born and how was your childhood and family?
I was born in 1941, January, in Budapest, Hungary. I was born into what you call the upper class Jewish family. My grandfather spoke 22 languages, and he was Franz Joseph personal interpreter for a while. So when he retired, he got a baronet, and he had land on Czechoslovakia and Hungary. They provided the kosher dairy goods for both countries. And my birth father had a very small factory in Budapest. But by the time I was born, he was in a Hungarian army as a workforce. And because he escaped when I was a year old to bring me a doll, which you have the pictures of.
Oh yeah, I'm going to put the picture. I think I have the one with you and the doll and
Yes,
your father's picture. Okay, this is the one of you with your doll.
exactly. That was when I was a year old. And he escaped from the work camp to give me the doll. And when he went back, that's my father. He had they had punished him by putting him very hard labor, and he got ill, and they shot him and buried him alive when he was when he was 32 years old. So I really have no recollection of him except for that picture.
Yeah, well, that's so sad, right? That you didn't like met him, but thank God you have this picture, and I know that also this picture of you with the doll, it's so cute, and I know that doll has a whole story. So yeah,
Well, the
thank you.
doll is no longer existing. That doll was with me during the entire Holocaust. That was the only thing I had, and it got really messed up. So after the Holocaust, it disappeared.
Yeah, I can imagine. So okay, so you were from Hungary. Did you were born at Budapest?
Yes, I was born in Budapest, and I lived. My mother had an apartment in Budapest, but because my dad was not home, when I was a year old, I was sent to stay with my grandfather, where I had a governess there with me, and I would stay with my grandfather's estate so my mother could run the business in Budapest. And my mother would come every Thursday and stay until Sunday with me. And so my first 2 years pretty much were at my grandfather's estate. That's where I was. And then my grandfather was working with the underground, trying to save people from Poland and Czechoslovakia. And somebody turned him in. So the Hungarian Nazis came and picked the entire family up. And I was with my governess on the second floor when it happened. And she went down. This was the big peasant lady. She was, I thought she could protect me from everything. And she came back, and she went down to check what was going on. And she came back white as the snow, and she was shaking and stuttering. And she told me that I can grab one thing of my objects, and that I needed to go with her. And I should act like I was deaf and dumb if anybody talks to me, like if I don't understand anything what anybody says, and that we're gonna go through the estate in the places I have may never been to. And she smuggled me into her parents' house. And while we were going across the yard, I saw my entire family, my mother's 4 sisters, my grandfather, my great grandmother, all my cousins and nephews put onto trucks. And I was told by my governess not to act like if I know them. And I remember being very hurt because those people didn't take me with them. I thought they're going on a trip, and I am not being taken. And I stayed at my governess's house for 24 hours. I stayed with them and I slept over there. And the next day she smuggled me back to Budapest to my mother. And by this time the underground notified my mom that we are also on the list to be picked up, because they wanted to make an example out of what not to do. And so my mother and I were told that the best thing would be for us to do is go into hiding for a while. And that was a beginning of 1943. And my mother and I were in hiding for the next 2.5 years, pretty much, until the spring of 1945. We were hidden by the underground and righteous Christians all over Budapest. And we stayed with the families until they felt safe. And then when they didn't feel safe anymore, then they would tell the underground and they would take us to somewhere else. We were always transported late at night. So I basically didn't see any sunlight for like 2.5 years. And I was hidden in cabinets, in closets. Somebody even dug a hole in the middle of the living room and covered it with plywood, and we were lying there during the day. And they had tables and chairs on the top of us, and we could not move. I was actually told that I could never speak or make any noises because of the people who were hiding us were also in danger. And we were hidden for a few months when a little girl was found on the street crying all by herself, and the underground found out that her parents were taken away. And so they gave her to us too. So there was the three of us, which was very nice for me because I had a friend. She was a few months younger than
Yes.
me. The only thing we had is that doll to play with. And so
Oh.
my mother took all her valuables with her when we went into hiding, hope knowing that the people who hide us had to feed us. And but the money and the jewels and everything disappeared very quickly. And after that, my mother, who was an amazing handcraft person, was knitting day and night with and whatever she needed, if they sold that in the black market, we would eat. Otherwise, we will pretty much didn't eat. So I ended up developing malnutrition. And I also at one point picked up some kind of disease. I was running a fever, and my mother kept on wiping my face with a wet cloth so people who were hiding us did not know that I was sick because she was afraid that they would hide us. And so the first 2.5 years of my life, from the age of a year and a half to 4.5, pretty much it is just hiding. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's a different story, right? From what we have heard, like, yeah, okay, the survivors from the camps, and obviously we have all of that on mind, right? But also what you've been through, that was you're a survivor, right? Because you went through all these horrible things, and as a child, I wanted to ask you, what things do you remember, maybe what you smelled, what you heard, I don't know, which experiences did you remember like that well because they were so
well,
horrible or so good?
I don't know. Do you know what dyslexia is?
Yes.
Well, apparently I have a form of dyslexia. I can read anything, but when I write, all my letters get mixed up and all the numbers and letters. So from a very early age, I must have known that I have a learning disability of some kind. I have a very high IQ, but I have a learning disability. And I have memorized everything all my life. I mean, in schools and everywhere, because that's the only way I could function. So people did not know that I had issues. So I have a very, very clear memory of many of the uh, situations and experiences I'm going to tell you about.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, right? Because you were so little, you were 3 years, but yeah, there are things that they are so hard that they keep on mind, right? So yeah, thank you for telling your story, because I know this is not a like easy thing, right? To
No, it's
tell.
not. When I got up, I went and took two Tylenols because I always get a headache after I talk about it.
Wow, yeah, thank you so much for being here and telling your story. So, yeah, what I want to ask you is that which experiences do you have in your mind like forever?
Well, I remember the time when I was smuggled out of my grandfather's estate to my governess's apartment. I also remember the first time when I was a little bit younger. I was a few months younger, maybe 6 months younger, when my mother told me after it was a Saturday evening after sundown that I didn't have to go to sleep early because we're going to have an art project. And I remember I was so excited because you know how it is. A kid doesn't want to go to sleep. And I was so excited that my mom said that I didn't have to go to sleep. And I remember after supper, my mother walked me down to the main room, and there were all my aunts and my cousins and my grandfather and my great grandmother. And I noticed that everybody had tears running down on their faces and they were whispering. And I couldn't understand as a small child, how can an art project be so depressing to those, you know? So what they were doing is they were cutting yellow stars out of the material and sewing them on the clothes. And I was allowed to play with the scraps on the floor. I was able to glue them onto a piece of paper and play with them. And I did, nobody explained that to me. I guess they figured I was too young to understand that the yellow stars meant that from that day on, we were marked. and anybody could harass us, beat us up, rob us, even kill us, and nobody would pay attention to it because we were marked as an undesirables.
Yeah,
We
wow.
were not the only one. I mean, the gypsies also were undesirables. Anybody who had homosexuals were undesirables. Anybody who had mixed blood in them, if it was 1/18 of non-white Aryan blood, they didn't. That meant that they were not white anymore, according to the Nazis. And so anybody who had 1/18 mixed blood in them were undesirable. So we were not the only one, but I can only talk about my own experience. And I remember sitting on the floor and seeing all these people crying and whispering, and I could not understand how can art be. To me, art was always fun. I am an artist, and I've always thought it was, even as a child, to me, it was such an exciting thing to do. And that stuck in my mind. And I was a very small child when that happened. And then, of course, I remember my grandfather's estate. I remember my cousins and my grandfather. And, but it is like flat memory. It is like when you see an old picture, you know, that's how it comes into my mind. And I remember the place where we stayed with my governess at the peasant house. I remember how sweet they were to me, and I remember we all slept in one big bed, and that was the first time I did that in my life. And I remember the food we ate was not the kind of food that I was used to. I mean, I remember the smells and touches and senses. And when we went to Budapest after that, my mother and I went into hiding, and I remember all the places we were hidden. I remember the dark, smelly, musty feelings of the cabinets and the closets I was in. I am 79 years old, and to this day, you don't see it from where you are, but every door in my little guest house is open, and every window is open, because I cannot be closed in. When I go to a theater, the first thing I see is the exit sign. When I buy tickets for a movie or a play or anything, I always buy the aisle seat, because I have to feel that I can escape if I must.
Yes,
It
of
has
course.
never left.
It's something that it keeps in your mind, right? In your, yeah.
It's
So
unconscious, and you know, there are certain things. It's very. I still notice that it is bothering certain smells. There is a soup what these people who hid us gave us. They call it the poor people's soup, and it has a certain smell. And to this day, if anybody I smell that, I get sick to my stomach. I mean, or some of the places we were hiding had a certain musty smell. And if I smell that, I feel like I'm getting sick. It never left.
wow, yeah, I think smells and all these things, they are so like they keep with us, right? When we have these like hard experiences. So yeah, do you have another experience that you want to talk about? I read your, yeah, the thing that you wrote for a book. So yes, I think there was a time. Can you tell us about the time that you were almost killed by a bomb?
Oh no, you are you talking about when we were taken on a truck, or when
I think you were in a closet. I read something. Yeah.
well we were when we were transported. At first, it was they were transporting us always at night, as I mentioned it. And at one time, toward the end of the war, I think it must have been about 1944 or so already, when the Nazis were very watchful, and they caught us, and they threw us on trucks, and they separated the two little kids. I was with my friend and my doll, and my mother was on another truck. And by this time, all my experiences with anybody in uniforms was very scary, because always when we were we were in trouble with anybody who had uniforms on. And plus I have been locked away for so many months already without seeing anybody. Um, and always wasn't allowed to talk, and I didn't hear anything, and there was no sunlight or anything. So I was in a pretty bad shape. I was pretty traumatized. And I remember taking her hand and pulling it back. You know how the old-fashioned trucks had those wood boards on the sides where you could
No.
see through,
Yes.
where we were so short that we could barely see through the lowest of that uh, strip of wood. And I saw four men dressed in SS uniforms with the swastikas on their arm following the truck. And I was petrified. I was feeling, and by this time I also was physically sick. And I remember pulling her in back in the corner, trying to hide. I thought maybe we can disappear and nobody sees us. Then I saw two of the soldiers climb on the truck, and they were looking through the children's faces. And instinctively I knew that we are in trouble. And all of a sudden they came to us and they grabbed each of us. They grabbed one of us each, and they threw us into the arm of the men who were sitting on the other two horses on by the truck. And I got so sick that I threw up, and I also soiled myself. And I remember, I mean, this is a person who hasn't had a bath for 2 years, almost a year and a half. And I felt stinky and dirty anyhow. And all of a sudden I lost it. And I was supposed to be the oldest kid. I was 3 years old, or 3.5, and I should have known better. I remember sobbing and silently sobbing in the arm of the Nazi with the horse on a horse. They didn't pay attention to me. They didn't say anything to me. And then we stopped front of the house, and there were more Nazis there. And then there was my mother. Apparently, these people were not Nazis. They were the underground, just dressed like Nazis. And we were actually saved from a transport to go to Auschwitz.
Wow.
But I didn't know that. I mean, nobody would tell me that. And I remember the big thing of that night was the first bath I had for like a year. I remember a little wooden tub, they put some hot water in and washed me. And I remember I thought I was in heaven. I thought that was the best thing ever happened to me, because it was the feeling, the warm water washing all the dirt of the year off, and the fact that I soiled myself and I threw up. And I remember they give me something warm to drink. And I remember my literally felt like my entire body and soul was cleansed. I remember that as one of the highlights of those months. And then we were put into the place in a cellar where we were hidden. And the thing was with this cellar is that not only we were there, but a bunch of rats and mice and all other rodents and bugs. And to this day, I am petrified of those things. I mean, I remember being in the corner, they had sort of built like with furniture and stuff. They made a space for us where if somebody walked into the cellar, they would not see us right away. And so things were blocked, but all of these rodents kept on coming there. I could hear their noises, and they're looking at us with their eyes. And I remember there was no way for me to do anything. And I remember to this day how scared I was always from those things. When my kids were teenagers and they were in school, and in America, they are on a weekend, they are allowed to bring home the pets, and some of them were these rats in the cages. And when my kids came home, I remember I was so sick, but I didn't want them to know, because I didn't want them to be scared from it.
Wow, yes, of course you got like traumatized, right, about rats and all this, but I think it's amazing this story of how that underground soldiers, they saved you, right, because they were going to take you to Auschwitz.
That's right. They had actually saved us several times. The underground and the righteous Christians had, I mean, I'm so grateful to them, because without them, I wouldn't be here.
Yes, wow, and did some like specific person was helping you, like?
Yes, there was one man, his name, he was a friend of a family, And he actually had a wife who was Jewish, but he couldn't save his wife, and the wife was taken away to a concentration camp. But he spent his for several years working with the underground, and he is the one who was basically arranging our saving. And then, there were other people involved, but he's the one who had arranged that all the time. And
Wow.
after the war, we were very close to them. Matter of fact, he adopted the little girl who was hiding with us after the war.
Wow, yeah, that man helped you a lot, right?
Yes,
I read that he was always like searching for places for you to hide with your mom.
that's right. And the little girl who stayed with us also. And he always came when it was time and to take us places. And he is the one who took us. And I remember they always sort of taped our mouths, the children's mouths, so we won't make any sounds. And we were always had to be carried because we were so small, and we had to be always, be quiet. And we were young and on, you know, we didn't eat very well, so we weren't very strong. We wouldn't be able to move as fast as they needed us. So we were always carried. And I remember it was always a trauma each time when we left someplace and got to another place, because you never knew where it's gonna be and how bad that's gonna be. I mean, each of them seemed to be bad one way or the other. You also asked me about what other memories I have. Um, I remember that the place where we were in the living room, underneath the living room floor, in that place, like, we couldn't even sit up. We just sort of had to be lying down because there was not enough space. And basically, can you imagine two kids under 4 who could not move, who had to be lying down? We couldn't go to the bathroom when we had to. We had to hold it. We were not allowed to say anything. We were not allowed. It's all had to be done pretty much in silence. Even when we cried, we were only allowed to be in without, So for many years, even now, when I cry silently, just tears flowing down, but no sounds come out, because
Wow.
it was so uh, drummed into our head that we are not allowed to make a noise, that it was like the crying is always so painful for me, because it is like a whole body gets involved in it, and I can't even let a sound out.
Yes, wow, and that kept with you, right? Because you were you had to be like always silent and like hiding and all this. So yeah, I couldn't imagine about how you were living, but yeah, how was the feeling of being so like hiding for so many years? And
Well, I did not know too much. I mean, when you are 3 years old and you've been hiding since you were 2, uh, you don't really realize there is other people live like that. You don't live like that. Many people ask me that, what did I think? After a while, it felt that that must be the norm, because that's all I knew. I mean, I spent, out of the 4 years of my life, 2.5 in hiding. So I didn't realize it until after the war, when I was allowed to be outside, that there was more to it than just being hidden in small places. Um, that affected my entire life. That 4.5 years.
yes, obviously the first years of our lives, they affect, right, all our lives.
Pardon
So
me?
that the first years that we live in this world, they affect all our life. So yeah, I think it was a terrible experience, but thank God you're here. And I want to ask you, what do you think it was the clue of your mom's survival and yours?
Well, my mom was a very strong lady. She was 4.5 foot. She was tiny. uh, she weighed under 90 pounds, but she was a very educated, a very, very bright woman. I mean, even during that era, a girl from her background usually didn't go to college, and they allowed her to go to junior college. And by 16 years old, she was in a junior college because she was so bright. Um, and but I think emotionally totally affected her for the rest of her life. I mean, my mother lost all her family except one brother and a couple of uncles, but everybody else was killed. My birth father was killed. And then when my mother married my stepfather, who was my birth father's best friend, and the two men promised each other that whoever will survive will look after the other person's family. And my stepfather was a very good man, and he decided that he really takes his promise seriously. He married my mother and adopted me. So I didn't even know until I was a teenager that he was not my birth father. But anyhow, and he lost 9 siblings. And I mean, we lost 96% of our family in concentration camps. So it's really affected, it really damaged my parents. They, the way how we lived afterwards and the way how they thought, it was really, they were very damaged, very, very hurt. I never seen them really joyful or happy because that was always hanging over their head, even though that we never talked about it. It was always there. Do you know what I mean? It was just a cloud, always there.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to ask you, I think you were like um, present in one of these historical facts that they it occurred in Budapest near the Danube, the
Oh yeah,
river.
I actually have a picture of the monument. Here is the picture. Uh, in the spring of 1945, when it was obvious that the Allies will win and the Nazis going to end up being beaten, the Hungarian Nazis wanted to have make sure there were no witnesses. So what they did is they searched house to house, and if they found anybody hiding, they dragged them to the Danube, they tied them together and shot them to the where the water was running the fastest. And they usually tied 2 or 3 people together, and they used only one bullet. So you could hear the rest of us who were in line, you could hear the begging, pleading, crying, the gargling, the whole process of the death. And then you see all these dead bodies on the river. And my mother and my little friend, whose name was Valeria, and I were caught, and we were taken to the Danube. And I remember it was like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in a March afternoon in 1945. It was already cold, and it was getting dark, and we were not dressed for an outing. In Hungary, in March, it's still cold. And I remember freezing. I was scared and frozen, and my mother was holding on to each of us, our hands. And I had my mother's hand in one hand and my doll on the other hand. By this time, the doll was really a mess because each time somebody gave me a little piece of food, I fed the doll, thinking that if I have to eat, the doll has to eat. And all these little pieces of food became bugs inside of the doll. And it was a mess. But anyhow, I would not let that doll go ever. I mean, I was holding on to it to dear life all the time. And I remember standing in the line, in the back of the line, and my mother told us that if we close our eyes and put our hands on our ears, we will not be cold. But what she wanted us is we won't see what's happening in front of us. I mean, because we were the only 2 kids on the line. And I remember there were this begging and pleading, and there were fires were shot, and then you heard the people splashing into the water, and then you heard the gurgling, and then the next batch came up, and then like that. And each time a batch was shot, we were moved up a few steps. And at one point, we were in the front of the line. And I remember the man taking a rope, and the three of us were being tied together. I remember the rope was so tight that I could barely breathe. And uh, my mother and the three of us were tied together, and she was trying to very quietly talk to us so we won't be scared. But at this point, there was nothing she could do. We didn't give us scared. And then I saw the man holding the gun. And then he looked at my mother and he said, "You dirty Jew, I know who you are. You lived in the same apartment house I did before the war started. And I think after this, I will need somebody to testify that I saved them, a Jew and two brats. And if you promise to do so, I won't shoot to kill." Of course, my mother agreed. And I remember as we were tied together, we were dragged several feet. And then I heard the gun going off. And I remember being either pushed into the water, or because of the shot, we fell into the water. I'm not sure. But where we fell into, it was not where the water was rushing. It was at the edge of the river where there were some tree roots and some other growth. So we fell into there. And I remember my mother was trying to wiggle that our faces won't be in the water. And I remember first I couldn't feel my feet and then my legs, and because the water was ice cold. It was like little by little, I had no feeling of my body. And it was like totally numb. And at one point, either the man who shot us into the river or somebody else pulled us out. I am not sure who was it, because I remember by this time, my entire mind was a fog. And they cut the ropes, and somebody took us to another house. And I remember I had my second bath. And by this time, all three of us got washed because we were soaking wet, not only soaking wet, but we had the water which was covered with blood and everything all over us. It was horrible. And I remember being washed, and I remember holding my doll and sitting in the bathtub with the doll, and the doll got washed too. And I remember they gave us some dry clothes, and I remember feeling the hot water defrosting me, literally. I could feel it, my entire body defrosting me. And I don't know if you had that feeling where it both pleasure and it pain in the same time. And I could feel this sharp pain in my entire body in the same time as it was feeling like it's no longer frozen. And then we were given some hot things to eat and drink, and then we were taken into a room. And this is the first time we were hidden where there were other people. I think these people had tried to pick up everybody they could to save the last minute. And we were all put into a room, and there were all these old men and old women, and there was no young men at all. And because they were already either killed in the army or just taken away. And we were the only two kids. And I must have been at least 15, 20 people in that room. There were no blankets or pillows, and everybody was lying and you could smell the fear. You could smell the unwashed bodies. I mean, it had a really oppressive smell in that room. I remember I was trying to not breathe because it felt so bad. And my mother found a little corner, and we were in a corner, and we stayed there until the end of the war. One morning, I remember by this time I was so traumatized that the smallest sound could wake me up. And I never really was sleeping. I was half awake, half asleep, because I was always afraid. And I remember the door being opened, and there were three men in the doorway. There was the person whose house we were at, and two men in uniforms. And I remember as a 4 years old kid who is visually memorizes everything, I remember noticing that the uniforms were not black, they were khaki. And I remember also seeing the hat, which had a red strip on it and a 5-star and a gold star in the front. But I did not know that these were the Soviet army. I thought they were just men who will kill us again. So I started to whimper. And my little friend, when I whimpered, she whimpered because she thought she had to follow me. And so the both of us were whimpering very quietly in the corner. My mom put her arms out to try to calm us down because she realized that this was not the Nazi forces. And one of the soldiers noticed that there were two little kids in the corner. And I remember he was walking toward us. And first I saw these shiny boots and then a khaki pants. And I was on the floor, obviously, and very tiny. And I remember seeing a hand going into the pocket. And by this time I was petrified. And then he pulled something out of his pocket and pulled the paper off of it, broke it into half and shoved it into our mouth. It was a piece of chocolate. To this day, if I am very unhappy, depressed, miserable, anything hurts me, a piece of chocolate, is the only thing which cures me. A bath and a piece of chocolate. But anyhow, I remember feeling the taste of the chocolate melting in my mouth, and I never had anything so delicious in my life. And I associate the liberation with a piece of chocolate now, and always had. And then we were told at that time that the Budapest is house-to-house fighting to have to able to the Nazis being pushed out of Budapest house to house, and that we cannot go on the street yet, but we are allowed to now go on the yard because they no longer had to be hiding. So every hour, two of us or three of us from the room would go out in the yard and sit in the corner. And I remember this is the first time I saw sunlight in so many years that I remember the feeling as the light was hitting my eyes. First, they had those circles, and it was both pleasurable because all of a sudden there were colors. And then also it had almost like a painful feeling as the sun hit my face. And every day we were out in the fresh air for about an hour until the war ended. And then we were told that we can go wherever we want to go. And my mom and I took the train and we went to my grandfather's estate in hope that if anybody lives, they will be coming back there. The little girl ended up taken by our friend who was the underground person, and he took her and he kept her with her. And when we went back, we discovered that the entire family was murdered, except for my mom's one brother. And the main house was taken over by the Russian army that was the headquarters. And we ended up staying with the same family who originally saved me from the Nazis until the war ended, pretty much until the Hungary was thoroughly liberated. And then my mother received a letter from my stepfather, and he explained my mom that he was witness to my father's death, and that he promised my dad that he would look after us, and he wanted to meet with my mom. And then my mom left me with this family for a couple of days. And then she came back and she introduced me to this man. You have a picture of him too, as my father. And I accepted it because I didn't know any better. And he raised me. And we went to live in Budapest from there on. And I lived there until the revolution broke out in 1956.
Yes, wow. And how was it to meeting your dad? Where your dad again?
He was my dad. He raised me. He was my dad.
Yeah, how was the feeling? Do you remember meeting with him after all this?
Well, I mean, his face looked familiar because he was a family friend, and I must have seen him as a kid. and I could, so the face was not scary to me. It was a familiar face. So when my mom introduced him to as my father, I accepted it, of course. And he was a very, very good man, very, very sweet man. He was a master craftsman in wood, and he was just a very, very good man.
Yeah,
He,
that's
he
him, right? In
yeah,
the
that's
photo.
him. That's him. And those are my two half sisters. They both live in Los Angeles. I was 14 years old there or so because I still have my long braids. After that, they made me cut my braids up. The school said that I was the only kid with a braid and I was the only Jewish child and that I should not look different than other people. So they cut my hair.
Wow, yes. So after all of this, yeah, you met your dad, your well, like you were starting like a new life and all this, but you experienced the communist Hungary, right? How
Yeah,
was it?
Stalin took over Hungary in 1946, and the oppression by the Stalin era was very, very heavy, especially for people like us who were not communists, because my stepfather hated the communists almost as much as he hated the Nazis. And he never joined the party, but because he was because his work was so special, the government let let us live our we lived in a bombed down house first, and then we lived in a one bedroom apartment, all of us, my mom, my stepfather, his sister, and his other sister, anybody who came back. We all lived in a one bedroom room house, I mean apartment, and then they added on rooms as they could afford it because the building was bombed down. That's where the bombed down building comes in. And by the time we left Hungary, we lived in a nice apartment. Uh, but things were not good, and I was very traumatized as a child. I was also very sickly at first. After the Holocaust, I spent almost a year in different hospitals because I both had malnutrition and some kind of infectious disease, which then nobody could what it was, and figured it out. And they took me from hospitals to hospitals, and I remember the nuns with that funny hats. I remember, every Sunday every day they would take me out to the yard of the hospital, where they had a willow tree, one of these weeping willows, and I would sit under that, and then people would bring me soup and stuff to eat because I could only eat a little bit at a time. Otherwise, I couldn't keep it down. I remember spending the first few months after the Holocaust in hospital beds, so it wasn't like a normal type of situation. And then I went to elementary school, junior high school, and part of high school in Budapest. I was the only Jewish girl. Yeah, that's me. Uh, I was the only Jewish girl when I was in school. And I did very well in school, except for my dyslexia. And my parents were very worried that that somebody will tell me about my father, or the fact that I would go into somebody's house who were anti-Semites, and they didn't want me to hear things which would be hurtful. And so there were very few people who I was friendly with, or who came to our house, or who we went to other people's houses. And um, one of the things I really love to do is that every Christmas in Hungary, the children are told that the baby Jesus brings the Christmas tree. And so all the families go to church, and somebody sneaks out and decorates the tree. And so the kids come home and they see the tree. And my mother and I were the baby Jesuses for everybody in the neighborhood. We would go to house and decorate everything. I remember that was my funnest time of the year. And but anyhow, I didn't have a very good childhood because My parents were very damaged. They were always afraid, because under the communistic era, it was almost as bad as under the Nazis. People were deported all the time. I mean, you would wake up in the morning and the next building was empty. The people disappeared. And my
Wow.
parents were really afraid that it would happen to us, especially since my dad refused to be part of the Communistic Party. So I was actually betrothed to somebody when I was 12 years old, in hope that if they would be deported, that because I wasn't his legal child, uh, I mean, his own child, that maybe I could stay with this other family and I wouldn't have to be deported. So at 12 years old, I was betrothed, uh, just to make sure that I would be able to stay, in Budapest if I had to. In 1956, the Hungarian Revolution broke out. And my father, the man who was the underground person who saved our life, had become the head of the secret police. Because
Wow.
what happened was is that he was going to work with the government to get all the Nazis, get them, persecuted. But what happened was is that it was like under the communists, when he became a communist, it just kept on rolling like a snowball and became like an avalanche. And so he ended up being the head of the secret police. So when the revolution broke out, my father felt that we needed to hide him and his colleagues. And I remember they sent me to the part of Budapest they lived, because we lived in the suburbs and they lived in the central part of Budapest. And they sent me there to bring them over to our house. And we hid them during the entire revolution to make sure that nobody hurts them. Because I don't know if you know, but during the revolution, the uh, communists were hung up by their feet on the light poles, and as a punishment. And so these people were saved our lives. We didn't want them to happen that to them. So they were living with us for 3 months or so. And in December 20th, 1956, it was obvious that the revolution was beaten and the Soviet took over again. There were two tanks facing our house. And my dad, my mom, and the two little sisters you saw on that picture, one was 2 years old, a little bit, and the other one was 5. We escaped to Austria. It took us 11 hours to get across the border. And we stayed in a displaced persons camp for 9 months. And we came to the United States in 1957, September 11th. I never forget that day.
Wow, yeah. And how was it to arrive to another a new
Well,
country?
to me, America was the dream. I mean, as I said, I was not a popular kid. So I spent all my life reading, and I read everything I could about the United States. I was the only kid I knew who had the parents would lock up the books because I was continuously reading and they wanted me to do other things. I had books hidden everywhere in the house. And I learned as much as I could about the United States. And that was my entire dream, to come to the United States. My stepfather's brother, twin brother actually, who survived, that was the only, who survived the Holocaust. He was a gay man, and he knew that in Hungary, especially under the communistic era, being a gay man would not be allowed. So he never went back to Hungary. He came to the United States. So that's why we were able to come to LA.
Oh wow, yeah. It was like a turn around for your life, and I think that well, thank God
I
you
was
survived.
16 years old.
Yeah, you were 16. I think I have a picture here, but I'm not sure how many years did you have here, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it when I came to this country. That the one on the left where I am by myself, that it was a displaced persons camp. And the other picture is when we arrived to the United States.
Oh wow. Yes, obviously, well, United States has always been like the dream country, right? And obviously, after all that you've been through, I think you were so happy to be here at United States.
It was a dream come true, totally. But right away I knew, I mean, pretty soon I realized that America has its issues also, and the streets are not paved with gold, and you really have to work hard, especially if you are an immigrant. Being an immigrant has never been easy anywhere, and especially not in this country. So uh, I I went to, and I spoke 3 languages then. I spoke German, Russian, and Hungarian, but I did not speak English. So I went to East LA to a school where I learned English. It was an ESL program. And we actually lived in East LA. We were the only non-Hispanic family or not Black family in the entire neighborhood. And I went to school there for 5 months. I learned enough English to call the Board of Education and ask them to test me. And when they tested me, I asked for a work permit because my mom took care of old people and my father worked 14 hours a day. And I felt that I was a strong 16 years old. I should not just sit home and play the student. So I actually got a work permit because I got a good grade. And I went to school at night and I got myself a job. And then I went home and told my parents. And I worked in a wholesale house as a shipping clerk. That was my first job. I remember my parents were very upset because I was 17 years old. They wanted me to finish school. They didn't want me to work. And I promised them that I will finish school. I did. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and an art degree. I went to school all my
Wow.
life at night and went to school and worked during the day.
Wow, yeah, I am so happy that you could like study all of that and build this beautiful life in America after all that you have suffered. And yeah, wow, that's amazing. And yeah, that makes me so happy. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more of your experiences in America? Because I know that you just didn't survive the Holocaust. You survived other things in United States.
Well, as I mentioned, I went to work at 17 years old, full time, and went to school at night. I met my ex-husband when I was 18 years old. I married him when I was 19. He went to school, he was getting his PhD, so I put him through school. Then I had 2 kids while I was working and went to school. And I worked at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. That's me in my wedding dress. And those are my 2 kids. And after my divorce, and I worked full time and went to school and had raised the children by myself. And then I ended up having cancer when I was 60. In 1994, I was in a car coming home from Yosemite, and a lady who fell asleep at the wheel, when she woke up, she knocked the car I was in down the side of the mountain. The car rolled down 4 times. Every bone in my body was cracked. I was in a full
Wow.
brace for over a year. To this day, I have issues because of that. And then in 2001, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had 2 surgeries, chemo and radiation. And thank God I am 19 years free of cancer. And I worked at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. I was the head of EKG department. And then I ran a cancer center for 5 years when I worked. I retired when I was 65 because I refused to have surgery for my back. And the doctors I worked with felt that if I fall, it may be their responsibility. And instead of having surgery, I just retired. And since then, I've been speaking at the museum. I create one-of-a-kind silver objects. I paint, sculpt, and do ceramics. And do whatever I can. I volunteer wherever I can. I volunteer in playhouses, in theaters, in movies, and anywhere I can.
Wow, I think your story is an amazing story of survival. because you just not survived Holocaust, the communist era in Hungary, the war, but also here, well, in America, you had all this trouble, right, in life, in life, like these problems. First, you got divorced, then you had this terrible accident, right? It was a miracle that you're alive because you said you broke all your bones.
They said that I will never walk again and never be normal again. And I refused. I said to them, if that's how you feel about it, I'm not staying in this hospital. It was in Long Pine. And I actually had them drive me home and I took care of it. I went to my own doctors and I said I was in a full brace for over a year. I was, even at night, I was in a cast at night for a
Wow.
year.
Yes, you're such an amazing woman, an active woman. You are so creative. Yeah, Eva, she creates this beautiful jewelry in silver that it's handcrafted by her. Actually, I'm going to send you here the link of her store in Etsy if you want to see all the jewelry that she makes. It's beautiful and so unique. But yeah,
Well, the word is unique.
unique.
Because I never really lived off of my work. When I sell, I just buy more materials. And so I always did what I felt like to do, not what I was told to do. So
Yes, but wow, thank you for sharing your story. But yeah, I have just like two more questions and then I
any
will,
question, I mean, you can ask me as long, I have nothing but time. So ask me
yes,
anything you want, or anybody can ask me anything they
yeah,
want.
thank you. I will ask you two more questions and then I will let them ask you questions. They are writing some questions in the chat, but yeah. The question I have, it's that did you ever go back to Budapest?
Yes, the first time I was back in 1983, my two children decided that I need to face my past because I could, I had issues with facing my past. I mean, I didn't want to talk about it. The kids felt, but my son was 19 and my daughter was 17, and they felt that it was time for me to face my childhood and my back and all the tragedies. And plus, the therapist I was seeing at the time felt the same way. So the three of us went back to 6 weeks to Europe, and we spent 10 days of it in Hungary. I remember uh, it was both exciting to get off the train, and I saw all the people whom I knew as a child waiting for me. They figured out when we are coming, and they were standing there with big banners, "Welcome home." And in the meantime, I was always 1 foot off. It was first, still I was under the communistic era. So I had to give them my passport at the communists, and I couldn't get it back until we were leaving. So I felt like I was strapped in one hand. In the other hand, it was very nice to see all those people who haven't seen in 26 years. I mean, the children were grown up already. My best friend was an old lady just like me. And uh, it was both beautiful and also it was a little scary. We were there for 10 days. And then since then, I've been back 2 or 3 times in Hungary. Last time I was there over 3 years ago with my two sisters, because my two sisters were born after the Holocaust, and they wanted me to take them to show them the things which I knew about, and they didn't. And so that's when we went to visit the monument and at the Danube, because before that I would never want to go close to it. I didn't want to see it because it reminded me for all the bad
Of
things.
course.
And so my two sisters and I went back 3 years ago, and so we visited all the places where my grandfather lived and everything. They wanted to see it because they were so young when they left. And I was their sort of part of their guide. One of my sisters is very much into finding relatives. So she is in the ancestry thing, and she found some relatives which I didn't know about and stuff like that.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, that you went back to where you were born and where you lived. And yeah, of course, it was maybe scary for you because all of the memories that you had there. But I'm glad that you faced that fears, that memories, and you could go back to visit where you were from. I've been to Budapest, and it's a
It's a
beautiful city,
beautiful city. It's a
beautiful
beautiful
country,
city. And the
and
food is good.
oh
Uh,
yes,
and they like Americans, or they like anybody from the Western world. Uh, so it is it's a lovely country. But right now the politics are very bad. The president over there is a Nazi, and it's really bad.
wow, that's awful. Hopefully they wouldn't repeat this story, right? But yes,
The last time I was there, the signs on the graffiti on the wall were very anti-Semitic and very anti-minority. They
wow.
were very anti-minority
It's
again.
so sad that we have all of these nowadays, right? After a
That's right.
century.
It's very scary to me because I see all the things happening, which was the late 30s and early 40s again in many places
Yes.
in Europe, in the United States. And this is the first time in my adult life since I find myself in fear, scared.
Yes. Of course, yeah. We hope that wouldn't, yeah, that will never happen again, and that's why we are here today to learn about your story and to think about all these things. And yeah, the last question I want to ask you right now is: we have a problem in my generation. We don't value many important things in life because we have everything easy, right? Technology, all this stuff that we have. What advice do you have for us?
Well, first of all, I think that at least the way how it works for me, that for me to able to know my past is helping me to live the present and the future. It making me not to repeat the same mistakes I had done. I also think that you should learn anything and everything you can, because they can take things away from you, but they can never take away your knowledge. I've been rich and I've been poor and I was in between. And we left Hungary just with the clothes on our back. Um, and I, all the material things you can replace or you can do with that. But you learn that is something is the most treasure there is. So I think, and you should learn your own culture and your own background, and ask as many questions as you can, because that's the only way things get cleared up. And I also think that instead of any violence, I think there should be no violence, there should be no hatred, and there should not be no bigotry. I think that you should try to understand how other people are. Like before I go to a country, I study the culture. I want to make sure that I don't come across as an ugly American when I walk around. I don't behave any way to offend them. And I think it's very important for all of us to respect other people's background and other people's culture and behave so that we won't offend them.
Yes, thank you so much for this advice. I think love is what bring us together, right? And love is what make you free and all this. So I am so happy that you are here and that you are such a nice woman and a happy woman, you know, because obviously some of the survivors, they got a little bit bitter because of their past obviously is so hard, but I admire your strength, your love and all that you are giving to us, and you are an inspiration to us. So yeah, I want now to give the time for people to ask, but before this I want to take a picture of all of us. If you can turn on your camera, because yeah, sometimes someone has to leave or something, and I wanted to have this picture of the meeting. If you can turn on your camera. Okay, I'm seeing that you're turning on the cameras. Okay. I'm waiting a second. Okay, I think I don't know if the other ones you can turn it on or maybe not, but okay. I will take the photo right now. Okay, I am waiting a little bit more because I think they're turning on their cameras. Okay, so yeah, smile.
I don't know what happened, but I think I just unzoomed us.
Do
Wait
you
a minute.
listen to me?
Okay, all right. Back.
Okay, yeah, don't worry. I'm taking a picture right now of all of us to remember this moment. So if you can smile and turn on your camera, it will be nice. So smile, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now I want to give this time for anybody that wants to ask a question to Eva. So, okay, we have these questions here. You can, okay, let me see what's the first question. First question is from Marcos from Spain. Let me see if I am going to activate your microphone because I think you can do it. Okay. Marcos, do you want to turn on your microphone and ask Eva?
Yes. First of all, thanks for this meeting. I think that is very important to young people to know this story. My question is, one moment, I'm going to read. Okay. What do you say to people who deny the Holocaust?
Who are denying the Holocaust? Is that what? Well, unfortunately, there is a lot of people who are denying it right now, and they saying it was a propaganda. I tell them about my experiences and my losses. As I mentioned, I lost 96% of my family I have never met. I don't have any recollection of my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, or I grew up without anybody. And I also grew up with all the people who had survived, who were emotionally really hurt. So I tried to tell them about that it is not a propaganda and it cannot ever happen again. We can't undo the past, but we can make sure that it never happened again. Will that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva. The next question we have is from Miguel Zavala. I don't know if you want to turn on your microphone or do you want me to read it? Okay.
Hi, Eva.
Hi,
This is
Miguel.
Miguel. We live here in Cuernavaca, in Mexico. It's nice to meet you through Zoom. You have a very interesting story. I think you have teach us that we don't need to lose our hope because when you have life, there is hope. And if you have love with your family, that's very nice. No, I was interested that when you arrived to America, which place did you
Los
arrive?
Angeles. I only lived in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I traveled across the country, but I only lived in Los Angeles. My stepfather's brother lived here, so we moved here, and then we all settled down here. I've been working here in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and a cancer center, and I went to school here. I never lived anywhere else in the United States except California, Los Angeles.
Okay, but I think there is a huge Hungarian group of Hungarian peoples like.
Well, actually, yes, it's true. I was in a Hungarian house once, but the thing is that I so much wanted to not to have anything to do with my past when I came here. I was an idealistic 16-year-old. I didn't want to have anything to do with my past. I wanted to be an American so much that it would kill me. I mean, I would walk around with a dictionary. I refused to speak anything in English, and I didn't speak English. You should have seen me because I was going to be an American if it killed me. And and I did everything possible to be an American. as much as I could. I was not looking for the Hungarians because I felt in that case I will be always a greenhorn. I wanted to be a real American.
Mhm.
I have a group of Hungarian Jewish and Hungarian non-Jewish friends because
Mhm.
they were friends from my family, but I did not seek him out myself.
Okay, okay. And what do you think about returning to Israel? You know, a lot of Jewish from the Second War, and with all that, and now new Jewish that are uh, going back to Israel. Do you have a talk about that? You know, to
Well, I went to Israel to visit at 1986. Um, and I was there 2 weeks. I went to Egypt, Israel, and Greece, and I loved Israel. I felt the first time in my life I felt that I was home, you know.
okay,
And even though that I am not very religious, I don't follow all those rules.
okay,
I light the Friday night candles because my mother did, and it reminds me of my mother.
okay,
I work with a Jewish organization. I am a very progressive Jewish organization. I am their event coordinator. I arrange all the events, but I don't go to synagogue all the time. I go
okay.
once in a while. You know, I'm not very religious. But arriving to a country where they told me, welcome home. That was the guy said when I got home over there. A little old Jew walked up to me and said, welcome home. And I just cried. You
Yeah,
know,
okay,
uh, I loved Israel. And it's to me, it's very important that there is a place where we can go to if nobody wants us, you know. But I feel American. Plus, I have my 2 children here, my grandchildren. Uh,
okay.
2 sisters, so I will not go to live there unless, of course, Trump wins again. And if he wins, I may just go.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing with us your life, part of your life. And if sometimes you want to come to Mexico, Cuernavaca, you have
Of
a lot of
course.
friends here, like Sam and Alejandra.
Well, actually, Sam
No,
invited me, and I'm taking her up on it as soon as we can travel again.
very
Right
Of
now,
interesting.
course,
right now, I
we'll
have
receive you here.
not been out of my area for the past 6 months. I
Okay,
promised my children I will not take any extra chances, so I am behave a good girl.
okay, okay. Thank
Of
you.
It
course.
was
Thank
very
you.
nice meeting you, Miguel.
Thank you so much, Eva. We have this other question of Michelle Sanchez. Do you want to turn on your microphone?
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I don't know if I'm because my connection is not stable, but do you hear me well?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you so much. I hope I can make myself clear because my English is a little
you
bit
are
rusty,
fine.
but
Just ask me anything you want.
thank you. Hi. First of all, thank you for being here with us today. And my question is, what passed through your mind in those moments when you were in closets and cabinets? What were you thinking when you were there?
Uh, that is a question most people ask, but I had blocked most of that for a long time. As I mentioned, that I was so young when I was put into that position. I was not quite two. That I didn't realize that wasn't a normal thing to do. I mean, you know, when your mother goes with you, you don't realize that you are the not other people didn't live this way. It was, I mean, my mother was tried to make me feel like it was normal, so I won't get upset. Uh, and I remember being stifled all the time. You know what I mean? That feeling of being stifled, uh, not able to breathe emotionally, psychologically. There was a continuous fear. If I heard any noise, it was always a fear. I felt that I had a hard time breathing. To this day, you know how the people do these breathing exercises? I don't know how to do it because I always take short breaths because I could not breathe on that place. Um, as I mentioned it before, that whatever, I had that doll and I had a friend and my mother. And my mother kept on talking to us, kept up talking to us to keep us quiet. Uh, I I do not go any enclosures. Right now, I do not go into any enclosures, period. Uh, to me, everything has to be open. I can't even live in an apartment house because of the hallways have no windows. So I live in a little guest house which has all these little doors and it's always open. Uh, I It is really very difficult if anywhere. But I don't know if what was my thought process. I was
Thank you
2 years
so
old, 3 years old, you know.
Yes. Okay. And I have another question.
Sure,
I don't
go
know.
ahead.
Okay. The second one is, what was your expectation of life after living all those experiences?
You
I
mean
mean,
here in the United States or in
yes,
general?
in general, yes. Mhm.
After the war, as I mentioned, I spent months and months in different hospitals because I was very sick and they couldn't figure it out. And it took me a while to get used to that I was not in the closets anymore. I had to get used to that I was able to be out. And also my parents were very damaged. So and plus I am a girl and my father was very old fashioned. So I was chaperoned everywhere. So uh, it was a process to get used to go to school, see other kids, not have people around us. It was all a process to get to you know to and my expectations. My parents had very high expectations for me. I was the only one left who lived through the Holocaust, beside my mom and my stepfather, and sort of they expected me to do everything, replace everybody, I mean. So I always felt that I could not live up to all the expectations that were expected from me. I mean, I was a good student, a straight A student. I learned languages, I tried the piano, but I never felt that I fulfilled everybody's hopes for me. So I have always had this feeling that I had to do more, and I still do. I mean, I am 79 years old. I can't sit still. I am continuously moving. I'm continuously doing things because I'm not, I feel that because I am alive and all these people are not, I feel that I have to live for everybody. I have to produce for everybody. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Eva. I think it's amazing what you think of living for everyone that cannot live right now. So yes, we have this other question of Camila Baena. Do you want to turn on your microphone?
Yes, thank you. First of all,
Hi, Camila.
hi. First of all, thank you for sharing your story and being here. What thing gave you hope and motivate you to keep going?
Well, you mean since my childhood or now?
No, since your childhood or
Well,
when you were through.
I was very fortunate because I had a very caring mother who was with me all the time. She is not one. She was not the person who could demonstrate. I mean, she wasn't huggy and kissy, and she wasn't able to do that because she was so damaged. She was not that way. But I always knew that she would take a bullet for me uh, all my life because she was always there for me, and I knew that. And I think that when you have somebody who you feel that depends, loves you so much and cares for you so much. And then I had a stepfather who did the best to make me feel cared for and loved for. And uh, so I also had from the very beginning, I felt that there must be a reason that I'm alive and I didn't do anything for myself. I mean, it wasn't like I did anything to survive. Somebody always did it for me. So I felt that there had to be a purpose for me. So I always felt that I had to fulfill my purpose. And I'm also been very grateful to be alive. I've been very grateful to have an experience to living. And so I try to be as positive about things as possible. I try to do all the things which makes positive. Like I love music, I love theater, I like books, I like nature. I try to experience all the things which are good in life. Um, so I'm just trying to make the best of it. Is that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Or did I answer the question? Is that
Yes.
what I want? Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have a comment from Marlene de Vega. I don't know if you want to say it, or I don't know if you're here anymore. Well, I'm going to read it because I think she had to go, but she says, "Thank you so much, Eva, for sharing with us your experiences. You're an amazing and wonderful woman. Wishing you more and more years with joy and love, surrounded by your lovely family. Also, thank you, Sam, for this invitation." Well, thank you, Marlene.
You're welcome. Tell her.
Yes, okay. I don't know if anyone else has another question. You can ask it right now. If not, I'm going to ask her another question, but yeah.
Go ahead, ask.
Yeah, okay, you can write it in the chat if you want to ask another question. Meanwhile, I want to ask you the last question that I saved for the end of the interview. I know you were talking about never again when you were answering some of the questions. I wanted to ask you, what does never again means to you, and how our young generation can contribute to it?
Well, the never again not only means to me as a Jew, because anybody who is hurt in this world, we all feel it. I mean, whether it is me or you or somebody else, it is affecting all of us. To me, never again means that never should people be murdered for their religious beliefs. Never people should be murdered because of the color of their skin. Never again should people be murdered because they may be not as smart or educated as other people. Never again of destructions of millions of people just from hatred and prejudice and bigotry. That means never again to me. It has, as a Jew, of course, I don't ever want another Holocaust. But I also, when I read the things that happen in Africa or South America or some other countries, I feel for it. And I feel that also that should never happen again. I think that we should learn from the past and make the world a better place. And I think that what you guys need to do is to try to be tolerant of everybody else, try to teach them not to join gangs and not to join violence. You're smiling, but unfortunately, there are a lot of kids who have no place to go and they're doing that. And if that's the only community they have, and it's scary to me. And I think that instead of punishing them, they should be taught and give them a job. They should teach them a profession. To me, never again means that never again being hurtful to other human beings or animals or nature. I believe that we are here for a purpose and we need to do that instead of destruction. Does that answer your question, honey?
Yes, thank you so much, Eva, for this advice, these words that you're saying to us. I think that you're going to keep us like thinking about all of this, because we all have a purpose, right, in life. That's why we are here. And yeah, thank God we are here, we are alive. And I think it's a valuable lesson what you have teach us, because yeah, for example, in the midst of this pandemic, we maybe think, oh, I am in my house and I can't do anything, but you went through many difficult things and you overcame them, and this is nothing, right? Like what we are going through.
Well,
So
it's not nothing. It's not nothing. It's very serious. I mean, when
well, yeah,
thousands of people dying, it's very serious. Yeah. But what I think that we need to overcome it. We need to do the best we
yes.
can survive it, and don't let us affect us psychologically and physically and emotionally, if it's possible.
Yes, thank you so much. And also, your story makes us value all the things we have, right? Because for you, having a bath, it was the best thing ever. And having that little piece of chocolate that you told us, that was heaven for you. And sometimes we don't value the things that we have, the house that we have, that even we can bath, have a bath and we can eat, we have our families. So, yeah, thank you so much for teaching us that.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the lessons, is that we really need to value what we have and appreciate it, because we never know when we lose it, and it's so easy to lose everything, but you can't lose your memories, you can't lose your education.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much for this lesson. And I wanted to just share a few photos of which you sent me, because, well, this one is with your mom, right? When
Yeah,
she
that's my
was,
mother before she died. Yes,
yeah, I wanted to
and that
share
was
this.
when she was young.
Oh, wow, yes, nice. And thank God she survived with you. She took care of you, and you said, right, that you as a child you had your faith in her because she was so caring. And yeah, and I also wanted to put photos of your family, because this is like,
That's my son and him and my grandson.
it's amazing, because thank God you're alive and you have this family, this beautiful family, right?
Yeah, that's my son and my grandson. Yeah,
And I think this is your daughter,
my
right?
daughter and my granddaughter.
Yes, it's so I'm so happy to hearing this and watching all these photos, because after all the things that you went through, you can have this beautiful family and you are with us right now. So
Yeah, they are my treasures, actually. They are my treasures.
of course, and I think here's a photo of you with your the photos of
My
your that photo represents what you said, right? That we should look to our past to learn and all this. So yes, okay. Thank you so much. And okay, just before we leave, well, we have a comment here, and I also wanted to say another thing, but yeah, Valeria Villanueva is telling us something. Do you want to open your microphone?
Yes. Hi, Eva. I don't have any.
Hi, how are you, sweetie?
I'm fine, and you? I really like this thing that Sam made, and I want to say thank you to invite me. And I don't have any question, but I want to say that thank you, Eva, to share us your history. You are a brave and strong woman, and our generation have a lot to learn of people like you. Bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I just wanted to share, for ending this meeting, the post I made for you for this interview, because I always write a little poem for everyone that I am interviewing. So I like to read it always when I am finishing the interview. So I will read it. She was a little girl. She lost her doll and her joy. She suffered. She was hit, just a kid. She survived, and now she smiles. Thank you,
Thank you.
Eva, so much. That little poem is for you, and you inspire us to keep fighting, to keep living with all this joy, this hope, and this love. Thank you so much.
Will you email me that information about the interview so I can have my kids look at it?
Yeah, of course. And actually, I'm going to email you that information. But for I don't know if all of you have the page of Facebook where I put this information and stream live. If you don't follow this page, you can. Okay, I will paste here in the chat the page. But yeah, Eva, I will email you with that information. Okay, just wait me a little bit. Okay. Okay, the link I'm sending is the live stream of this meeting, but yeah, there you have the page, so you can be informed of the other meetings. We're going to have another interview next Saturday, so all of you are invited. Also, Eva, if you want to be here, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has another comment or question, or we're done now. Okay, so thank you so much, Eva. I don't know if everybody can turn on your camera to say goodbye to Eva, and thank you. Maybe you
Goodbye.
can open your microphone and say thank you, Eva. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing
Well,
so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
We send you a big hug
Bye.
all the way from here. Bye, Eva.
Bye.
Thank you, Eva.
Bye.
Bye, Eva. Thank you.
Good luck to you guys. Be well, stay healthy, stay happy.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Eva. We
too.
love you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.